So when you're talking about that 20, going back to the 20 million euro villa, is that the right location, Los Flamingos?
Okay, hello everyone. My name's Sean Woolley. I'm the Managing Director of Cloud9 Spain. With me today, I have the fabulous Paul Brazell Acosta, who is one of our esteemed directors in our business. And we are here today to have a little chat about what's happening in the market in terms of pricing, particularly at the high end of the market and the real estate market here on the Costa del Sol. We've seen some good times, we've seen some bad times. I think it's fair to say at the moment that we're going through a good time. I think, correct me if you think differently, but I think the market here is slowly and steadily going up in terms of pricing. I think generally across the board, particularly at the lower and mid-market sections. But what has exploded is the high end of the market, which we said was likely to happen and did happen during the pandemic, when I think the majority of people who were able to travel and make decisions financially were those in a position to do so. And I think it's created a huge glut of demand and actually a limited amount of supply. We've seen a lot of properties at the high end of the market in some very nice locations being sold pretty quickly. And I think that's caused a bit of a lack of stock for agents. We've suffered from that. And I think particularly those agents who ultimately specialize in that super high end, they've almost had to invent new destinations with big prices. What's your take on it all?
I absolutely agree with you. We've just had this week. We've had a client looking for a certain product in a certain location, and there is nothing for sale there. And it's quite frustrating because you have the buyer and you don't have a property that he wants in that particular area. And as you know, especially on the Golden Mile, for example, if we go into Marbella, there's certain areas, specific areas that there's waiting lists also for people to buy in those areas. So you have to feel very privileged if you own a property in these particular locations, knowing that once you put it on the market, you have it sold the next day. So keeping that in mind and going to what you're saying about these large villas in different locations, like moving outside of that circle, the golden circle, it's not that easy because buyers know where they want to be as well. That's the important thing, and not every buyer is willing to pay and for an example, to pay in a different area, which is Estepona, an example, outside of the Marbella area, the same price that you would pay for a villa situated in Sierra Blanca or in La Zagaleta.
Or are they? I mean, what's interesting, just to cover a couple of points there that you've rightly raised. Normally, I would say on any development, say you have a development of, 200 apartments, normally in any given time, 10% of that inventory will be available for sale. That's just kind of the natural churn of Costa del Sol. So if you have 200 apartments, normally maybe 10% is a bit high, but between 10 and 20 apartments would be available. I think the case that you're referring to, there were two, weren't there? 2 or 3. That's
it. No, one the owner can't sell right now because of political issues and what's going on in the world. And the other, there's only two on the market right now. And they weren't the appropriate ones. He's willing to pay for it, but if it's not there, it's not there in this particular case.
The other thing that we're referring to is there was a villa released to the market, I think about 3 weeks ago, in Los Flamingos Golf Resort, which I know very well. I lived in Los Flamingos for 9 years in an apartment. And this villa was released to the market for 20 million euros. And look, don't get me wrong, it's a stunning house. It's a beautiful, beautiful house, beautifully finished. It's big. It's on a plot of 3,500 square meters. But the plot itself is fairly steep. So you get a lot of house and then it falls away in front of you. It overlooks the Tremores golf course, which isn't the best on that resort. I don't think it's in the best section of the resort. Los Flamingos has 24-hour security, but it's soft security. So anyone can go in and out. It's more of a presence than actually a security gate. And on that golf resort, as well as nice villas, you've also got apartments, starting at 250, 270,000 euros. And
Right.
the plots aren't huge in Los Flamingos. So, this house, although it's 20 million and it's amazing, has neighbors both sides. And I just thought, wow, when I saw that, because, the last 9 years when I lived there, I always thought people who put their properties on the market there for 4 or 5 million were being hopeful. And now all of a sudden we've got one for 20 million. And then I noticed this week that the same agent has also put another villa on the market
For half the price.
in Los Flamingos for 10 million.
For 10 million.
And it's like, wow. And, it got me thinking well, I know how, but who has created this market and why? And I think what we've said is important, because I think the agent who's promoting both these properties specializes in the high end.
Yeah.
They specialize in areas like Sierra Blanca, Puente Romano, where they've had fun. They've sold a lot of properties there in the last couple of years, but now there is a real shortage of stock. Mm-hmm. And I think they're having to find another destination or another area to create a destination at this price level to satisfy their promoter, or their developer rather, that they can promote the product. And it's, I don't know. I mean, am I being wrong here, Paul? Because 20 million euro villa in Los Flamingos, will it have a buyer? Will someone come along and go, wow, this is amazing?
Well, in my opinion, what I think it feels like, and I would like to go see it, but it feels like they've taken a villa from a privileged area, like we mentioned before, let's say called Sierra Blanca or La Zagaleta, and they've picked it up and transformed it to an area that, in my opinion, is not so much in demand for a buyer that has 20 million that is going to invest and buy a property here. However, having said that, I've seen incredible things happen. And also with the same promoter developer, we were just recently in an open house in Puente Romano, Marina Puente Romano, but also not in the best location as far as what you want as sea views. When you're going to spend, this is a 4.5 million euro property, and when you're going to invest 4.5 million euro, you're expecting sea views. I think you would have a little bit of sea views at least. But will that apartment sell? Due to the lack of stock, it will sell because there's no other options, and people are waiting to buy in this privileged area called Marina Puente Romano. So it's a crazy market, and I'm also obviously, I would love for them to sell it. I mean, I would like to have the buyer to buy it, but I wouldn't know. It would be a difficult approach to show somebody what they can buy for 20 million euros in the luxury resorts, as opposed to buying. It is a luxury resort as well, but it's not the same as over here. You know what I mean? I guess it's all to do with location. We always go to the same point.
That property at Puente Romano for 4.5 million. What do you get for the money? Is it an apartment?
It's an apartment with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms en suite. It's been completely refurbished to high standards. But in my opinion, the ROI that the owner is trying to achieve is a bit cheeky. That's my opinion. I don't believe he spent X amount of money. Like let's say that a total in purchasing the property and refurbishing it, in my opinion, he's probably invested about 2.8 million euros. Okay. And if you're expecting to sell for 4.5, including the furniture, it's a high ROI that you want to achieve in a very short period of time.
Yeah, you're getting a quick million out of that deal.
Yeah, exactly. And buyers aren't stupid, and they also will realize that, and they know this. They're smarter than us sometimes.
Yeah, but you say buyers aren't stupid. Maybe they are. I mean, because that same company that's promoting that apartment at Puente Romano, they sold a penthouse, which was admittedly frontline.
That blew my mind.
And that was 9.5 million, I think it was. And that sold within a couple of weeks. And I think they got near the asking price for that. So, I mean, this is where you start thinking,
that's crazy.
you start thinking 9.5 million for a penthouse on the beach. Okay, someone just obviously had to have it. But 9.5 million can buy you a townhouse in Mayfair in London. It can buy you. I don't know. I'm just thinking, wow. And I guess the people who are buying these properties just want them, and they're prepared to pay. And that's always the case with the ultra high net worth, client base. if they want something badly enough and they've got the money, they'll just go and buy it. And
but it goes back to what we talked about before. It's about location. I just received an email from the famous James Edition series, and they were pointing out the top and high-end penthouses in the most popular cities worldwide. And we're talking of the minimum price you pay for one of those penthouses at 10 million euros, all the way up to 65 million euros in New York. But it's the location you're paying for as well. So when you're talking about that 20, going back to the 20 million euro villa, is that the right location, Los Flamingos, for that property? That's my big question. I don't know. And if it is sold, and hey, we might have the buyer, that would be fantastic. That would be great. And then I'll have to go, sure, and I'll shut up.
But isn't it interesting how we're comparing, because we're at that level of pricing now, we're comparing a penthouse on the beach and a villa in a golf resort in Marbella with London and New York properties. So maybe the world is changing. Maybe because people now, because all this after the pandemic, people are wanting a better quality of life and they're wanting a bit more space and they want to work from home. So maybe there's a shift now from being in the major cities of the world to being on the beach in the Mediterranean, in the California of Europe. Because I think undoubtedly what's happened here in the last couple of years is that people have identified Marbella and its surroundings as the California of Europe. And they've decided to move here. They've decided to relocate. They've decided to buy second homes here purely to enhance their quality of life. And it's almost like the investment value has kind of been left to one side. It's just that people want to be here. They feel safe here. They can work from here. They have a beautiful climate normally. So, they feel very comfortable here. And maybe there is a huge value in that we are undervaluing. Maybe there are more and more people out there who are prepared to pay higher and higher and higher price to get a piece of it.
I totally agree with you. And we've had clients, as you know, as well, that are just deciding to sell all of their assets in their home country to bring it down here, obtain a golden visa in most cases, and live here. And you've seen also Malaga as a capital city in the news lately. It's becoming more and more popular with the help of ambassadors such as Antonio Banderas and other famous people, Pablo Alborán, to mention also a famous singer. The mayoress of Marbella is doing a fantastic job in promoting Marbella as a touristic destination. We've won second place worldwide as a tourist destination. That's not easily achieved. And they do a lot of hard work behind the scenes to bring all of these people here. And it is true, it's incredible. But now where, as far as like land to build new properties and new promotions, Marbella, that privileged area, it's over. There's only one more plot of land, which, by the way, I just found this out yesterday. They are going to develop, and they're going to develop into luxury villas, okay, on the Golden Mile. That's the last plot of land but they haven't released this to the agents yet. It's sort of like inside information. We have to be on top of that one.
Very good, very good.
And then another area, for example, in San Pedro, if you go down to Cortijo Blanco area, there's a company that's releasing 3 luxury villas that are going to be to 10 to 12 million euro each villa, right there, right next to the Nuevo Reino restaurant.
Yeah, I know it. I know it. Oh, I know the plot.
You know the company, you know the plot. Yeah. Well, that's bold there. That's incredible. And
it's really weird. I mean, I guess while the money is there, I guess while people are prepared to pay the prices, people will price them accordingly. I mean, look, we look at the development on the new Golden Mile, Imare, which is between Puerto Banús and Estepona. And you know what? It's absolutely frontline. It's a beautiful development. The beach isn't great, but it means that no one's going to come and put their sun deck down there. Do you know what I mean? So it is like having a private beach, even though it's not great quality. Sure. But when the developer released Imare about, 5 years ago or 6 years ago, and they priced them from, I think, 2.5 million, and all the agents were like, how much? And they were, very large apartments. And I think the concept was it was like a villa-sized apartment, but without the hassle.
Of very good qualities also, I have to say.
Very good qualities. But now they're selling for twice as much as owners bought them for. There's an apartment, I think, on the books there, a penthouse for over 9 million. And this isn't on the Golden Mile. It's not on, this is literally on the beach, as I say, not a great beach, the A7 behind you, and 9 million. In fact, we had an offer on it 2 weeks ago. which wasn't accepted, and it was a good offer. But there's a lot of money out there, I think. I think that's what it says. But also there's other areas that are, I think, because we're running out of stock in the really kind of 5-star plus areas like Golden Mile, Sierra Blanca, Zagaleta, we're now going to other areas like Flamingos, like La Alqueria, which is an area, again, with a mixture of stock, apartments, villas. And the villas now, 4, 5, 6 million, they're just going up and up and up and up. And it's like,
even in Paraíso as well, and Atalaya area, there's villas that are going in there that all of a sudden you see them on the market for the 4.5 million euros in El Paraíso Alto, which has never been seen before.
And it's the same in Montemayor. There was one released yesterday for over 5 million where I live. And I'm like, ooh. and the problem is, that either people are going to come along and buy these things, which is great, or they're not going to get sold, and then the prices are going to have to come down a little bit because they've been a little bit too hopeful. And I just wonder where it's heading, because I don't know, if I had 5 million or 10 million, I kind of know where I'd want to be. And it wouldn't be in some of the areas that I've mentioned.
No, I think the only possible way to where it's going is exactly as you said, towards Estepona, and I would even go beyond that, which is Soto Grande, and Soto Grande is now Cadiz. However, what you've seen the properties that are being built also in Soto Grande, it's come a long way in the last 10, 15 years. It's incredible. But the climate that we have here in Marbella, which is called the famous microclimate because of this mountain range and La Concha, that doesn't exist over there. And I'll give you an example. In summer, when I was working there, if I left the house in summer and maybe it was about 24 degrees here, it was 4 degrees easily hotter in summer in the Soto Grande area. So that's another thing to keep in mind, and buyers will also know that it's not the same, and it is true.
So is it our duty as real estate people, Paul, is it our duty to say to buyers, you're seriously not going to spend 20 million in Los Flamingos or 8 million in La Alqueria or 5 million in Montemayor, are you? Or do we say, come and have a look at this wonderful 20 million euro house in Los Flamingos and this 10 million euro villa? Because I find it difficult. I think you do as well. You're similar to me. I find it difficult to genuinely advise people when I think a pricing bubble has been created purely to appease promoters and developers.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The way I would angle this is very simple, is grab a property from El Madroñal, Sierra Blanca, and La Zagaleta, and then take the client to view those and also take them to see Los Flamingos. And then you see for yourself as a comparison of not only location, of the quality built, sizes, views, keep views in mind as well, and let the buyer say, well, I'm glad you showed me this. However, maybe I want to be back in that area there, or I'm glad you showed you this. This is fantastic. I want this. Yeah. So you definitely have to take the risk. I would take the risk.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I like to see a steady kind of market increase. I think everyone can handle it. Everyone knows where they stand. So if you've got, a top value in Los Flamingos of 5 million euros, and then you get something at 6, it's like, ooh, someone's priced their villa at 6. Wow, I wonder how they'll get on. But to go from 5 to 20 is like, what on earth is happening? Someone has created a destination there, and I just wonder for who's, for what purpose? Is it just so they can say, we've got a 20 million villa here, this is it, here you are, the market, have a go at that? And I just think, ooh.
But it's going to be interesting. I mean, watch this space, because you only have an X amount of time as well to prove to the developer of that property as an estate agent or promoter that you are going to walk your talk. How much period of time that is? 1 year, 2 years? I have no idea. Or do they need that? Will it sell this summer? Because people are heading this way. Their bookings are going mad in hotels, and which is fantastic.
Maybe it will sell. Maybe it will sell. Maybe someone will just come along and go, here's 20 million. I love it. It's my kind of house. I'll have it. The interesting thing was, I suppose the nearest example to this we have is well, it's not a direct comparison really, but Villa Cullinan in Zagaleta,
Exactly.
which sold, I think that was priced at 32 million. I don't know what the final price was, but at 32 million, I think at the time it exceeded anything else for sale there by about 10 million.
Yep.
And they sold it. They sold it to a young guy who I think reserved it over the telephone and then flew out on his private jet and said, "Yeah, this is perfect."
That was all over the news. Yeah,
it was all over the news. And I think us old wrinkly estate agents at the time were like, "How much? 32 million." But someone obviously felt it was worth paying that price. So maybe we're out of touch. Maybe it's us that's the problem, not these guys.
That's why if you have the chance, definitely show it.
It's absolutely true. And I think all we can do, Paul, is just remain honest. Like I know Los Flamingos very well, and I would, if I were taking a client up to that 20 million euro villa, not that I'd probably be able to now, but if I was able to, I would just point out the pros and the cons. Like I always do with clients, I'll say this is amazing for this, and this, but actually just beware that you're paying a lot more than anyone else has paid on this resort before. You're overlooking the third course. Right. I think you have to point that out, because I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I'd have only pointed out the positives. And I know we're in sales, and I know it's all about dressing it up, and but you've got to be straightforward, haven't you, and honest.
Straightforward, 100% honest. Absolutely. There's no other way. And like I say, you've seen how much homework our clients do prior to their visit. Mm-hmm. And if you're not 110% up to date on the places that you're going to show, our client is going to know, because they've done their homework.
Yeah,
I've seen that as well.
You're absolutely right. But then you see these places getting sold, and you think, who's buying these? Is it someone who's done their research or not? And I guess they have, but have they got more money than sense? I don't know. Maybe that's the wrong phrase, but they've got enough money to go, I'm paying it anyway.
Yeah, not even as an investment.
Maybe I'm just bitter and twisted and jealous.
Yeah. No, that's that's it. We got it. That's exactly it. But it would be a long-term investment if you were to buy that as an investment, obviously.
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens over the course of the next 6 to 9 months as to whether these really high-profile and highly priced properties continue to sell, because they have done so far. Whether clients just start thinking, hang on a minute, whoa. And as I say, I think this only affects the super high end. I think the majority of the market is still, okay, the prices have gone up, there's no doubt about it, but I think that's in response to mass demand. But I think the prices are still fairly affordable and fairly sensible. But it's these super high priced villas and apartments that you just think, ooh. But while there's a market, you can't blame the promoters and the developers. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you, Paul, for your input. We will get in touch again soon to discuss some more hot topics on the Costa del Sol. But until then, it's goodbye from us.
Goodbye.